Hey, has this ever happened to you? Well, it happened to us yesterday. We're going to tell you what happened, where we made a big mistake, and where we're going from here. I'm Phil, and this is Y2V's Maintenance Monday. Hi there, again, I'm Phil, and my wife Shar and I, we run a nonprofit called Y2 Volunteer. What is that? We renovate state parks and other nonprofits all over the country with RVers like you. So if that's interesting, check out some of our videos, subscribe to our channel. Also, head on over to y2volunteer.com, subscribe to our newsletter, because that's where we kick out all of our projects that are coming up in the next 6 months to a year. So we'd love to see you on one of our projects. But yep, this happened. We were on our way from Rock Springs, Wyoming to Cody, Wyoming. That's about 274 miles. And just before Lander, if you've been on that highway before, there's a little mountain pass with a 7% grade going down into Lander. And that's where the problem happened. So to set the stage, we were doing about 50 miles an hour, maybe 50 to 60, going down the mountain grade. It was a 7%er. Usually it hasn't been a problem, but we had engine braking applied, and what that does is it downshifts and creates that resistance in the drivetrain to keep you from speeding up too quickly. Takes the pressure off the brakes, it takes the reliance off of the brakes, and it's actually a good thing. If you've got a coach like ours and you've got an engine brake, you really need to use it. So we had that on, but I felt like the brakes weren't working as good as they should have, and sure enough, as we got towards the bottom, I look out the right and left windows, side view mirrors of our coach, and we were smoking. So I pulled off immediately, grabbed our fire extinguisher right before I bounce out the door. The TPMS goes off. That is our tire pressure monitoring system. That was telling me that the inside wheels back there on that rear axle were increasing in temperature and pressure. No good. So out I went, and here's that video to show you exactly what was going on back there. Okay, so you can imagine that I'm sweating bullets. I've got my fire extinguisher in hand. I do climb under there to make sure there's no active fire. It's not. It's just those brakes that were really hot, 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 as you heard in the end of that video. So while Shar and I were standing back there wondering what the heck happened, because this has never happened before, we slowly derived two major problems with our day. And what caused this, because it was absolutely human error. First mistake, speed. We go over our mountain grades, and if they're windy and curvy, man, we will drop it down to 35 to 40 miles an hour. We don't care if a whole bunch of cars pack up behind us. We just want to take our time going down that grade, because the way engine braking works, it's probably different. I'm sure it's different than exhaust braking. Engine braking means you're just downshifting. So that Allison transmission downshifts and applies resistance to the drivetrain so that you don't accelerate fast. It basically downshifts you, and so you can release the brakes and not ride those brakes all the way down the hill. Well, when you're going down at 50 to 60 miles an hour, the engine braking only works in the higher gears, and you can still accelerate through that. And you need your brakes, and you need your brakes more often to keep the speed of the coach down. 50 to 60 miles an hour was probably too fast. The speed limit was around 65 to 70 miles an hour. I was lulled into a sense of complacency. I probably should have stuck it out at 45 to 55 and just taken my time. I had 10 cars behind me. That didn't bug me. If I was going too slow, I could always use one of those turnouts that were on that highway, let people pass and not feel the rush. I think I always apply some risk when I drive. 50 to 60 didn't seem bad at the time, but it was obviously too fast because I was using my brakes too much. Mistake number 2. While we're standing back there, I decide to walk around to check the smoking on either side of the axle, and I see that there's no trailer lights. I walk up to the 7-pin connector, it falls out in my hand, and I realize then that the trailer has not had power going down that grade. No power to the lights means no power to the brakes, and this 32,400 pound coach is trying to stop or slow down 38,000 pounds. That tells me why I was experiencing that reduced brake authority going down the hill. Anyway, I plug that baby back in and we continue to wait. Here's the biggest mistake. When we left Rock Springs, Wyoming, we both do our underway checks, Navy guys, sorry, our checks that we do before we hit the road. And Shar takes care of the trailer, connecting the trailer, plugging anything in. I take care of the bay doors and the jacks and everything else. She double checks my work with a checklist that we have. I go back there, I look at the connection, I see that it's all connected up correctly, the chains are crisscrossed, everything's fine. I didn't look at the lights. She said that she saw the lights were on, and if they were on, I would have looked at that and seen that the lights were on, and we would have jumped in the coach and gone. But I never checked that 7-pin connector. You can actually connect that thing, but if you don't push it in far enough to lock it in place, it can come out on the road, and that's exactly what happened. So complacency was our biggest mistake of the day. We didn't verify that the trailer was properly connected, and because that hole in the cheese lined up with a mountain grade where we were going too fast, we found ourselves on the side of the road that day with a lot of smoke coming out of our rear axle. So what next? We hit the road. This time we were going about 45 miles an hour all the way down into Lander, Wyoming. And when I tapped on the brakes, I had a lot of brake judder. That meant that those shoes were warped enough that when I tried to apply them, either the drum or the shoe was warped, and it was a lot of heat, and it was bouncing around in there. And I think some of you have experienced that. When you overuse your brakes, you'll get a little judder. And it wasn't too bad. I still had braking authority. My braking was a lot better than it was when I was going down that grade, but they were bouncing around a lot. We went through Lander, through Riverton, through Thermopolis, and once I got to Cody, Wyoming, no more judder. The temperatures all came back down to normal, and everything was seemingly fine. And this is where we're parked right now, at this awesome little Parkway RV campground here in Cody, Wyoming. There's a shop across the street. There's a Walmart right here, so you have to check it out. It's actually pretty cool. Anyway, today, woke up this morning, went down, did a visual inspection. I'm a novice, but I'm still going to inspect. Everything looked in order. We decided to pull in the slides, disconnect the trailer, and I want to do some measured braking going down the highway. We got on the highway, went about a half a mile down, and in 2 places I went to 45 miles an hour, and I really jammed the brakes in, made sure that everything was secured, and hit those brakes. If there's any glazing, because I was riding those brakes going down that hill, that would really have an effect to knock that glazing away. But we had no problem braking whatsoever. In fact, it was pretty jarring how fast we slowed down and were able to come to a stop. Do I think the brakes are good? I think the brakes are good. The next thing I tried to do was to call for an inspection. So I called some shops around here. No one can get us in. So I need to schedule an appointment to get in for an inspection, because I really want a professional to look at those brakes to make sure that everything is good to go. So what are the lessons learned of this trip? Make sure you keep your speed down going down those grades. Don't worry about the people who are piling up behind you. You can always use a turnout, but let your engine braking do its thing. Let your engine braking use those lower gears so that you don't have to use your brakes. If you're in first or second gear, you'll never need to tap those brakes unless it's a really steep grade. But if you are going faster than that, you're going to have to ride those brakes, and that's not good. Lesson learned number 2, don't discard your checklist just because you're experienced. Keep using your checklist exactly how you designed for them to be used. Always use them. don't cut any corners. Make sure you're checking those lights. Make sure you're checking those plugs. Make sure that you've got all that stuff done before you hit a mountain pass. Because we overlooked one small thing, we ended up causing the problem that we had yesterday. Well, we hope this video was good. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and if you're interested in following along with our journey, we kick out a Friday food and fitness video every Friday. We kick out these maintenance Mondays when we've got something to talk about there, and we also share what we're generally doing on the road, including volunteer projects. I'm Phil. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. See ya.